Sikh we'll learn is Tazria Gimel and look at the Siches Chelik Yizayin. The Torah talks about a Metzera, and the Torah goes into all the details what makes a person a Metzera and he becomes Tomei, and it's a very strict Tumah. And then there's a posik that says, and the Rebbe is going to speak about that posik. From posik, Kol Yimei Asher Anega Bei Yitma. Posik says that all the days that he has this nega, the Metzera becomes Tomei through a nega. All the days the nega is in him, he is Tomei. And then the gamer, etc. Then the posik says, "Bodad yeshem chutz lamachne meishavet." He should sit alone, and outside of the machne should be his meishav, should be his place where he's settled, his dwelling place. So from that posik, we learn out the Teras Kehanim, and the Rambam brings it as eich der meishav who the Metzera gefindt sich is tomei. That also the house in which the Metzera is found is tomei, which means normally tumah passes on if you touch something. If someone is tomei and you touch something, it becomes tomei also. By a tomei mess, when a person is tomei by touching a dead body, anything that's in the same room with him under the same roof is also tomei. But by other tumas novela, all kinds of tumas, that doesn't happen. By the case of a metzera, we learn out from the posik chutz lamachna meishove that his meishav, his house, so to speak, is also tomei. Meaning anything that's found within the same room as him, the same house as him, also becomes tomei. Now we're going to discuss what happens if it's not his house. He goes into someone else's house. So the Sikha continues, when a Metzera geht rein lebeis chavere, if a Metzera goes into his friend's house, a different person's house, of the Mishnah says like this, Keli miyat meim. The first opinion says that all the kelim, all the vessels in that house that he walked in, even though it's not his house, also becomes tomei. Rabbi Yehuda says, when does it become tomei? Only if he stayed there as long as it takes to light the candle. So the Mefarshim saying the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, what's this idea that if he doesn't stay there that long, the kelim don't become tomei, only if he's there as long as it takes to light a candle. So they explain, as a ret in the falva, the Metzera Zerayin lebeis chavera on reshus. We're talking about the case where he went into the house of his friend without permission. If he goes into someone else's house with the permission of that balabos, of that owner of the house, so Rabbi Yehuda agrees that because he got permission to go in, that house is considered meishove, it's considered his dwelling place because he got permission to go there. Even Rabbi Yehuda will say that the kelim become tomei right away. We're talking about a case where he went in without permission. Therefore, we give time, and the time limit is as long as it takes to light a candle. We give enough time that the balabos should be able to kick the person out, that he should tell the person to leave. And if he tells the person to leave, then the things in the house don't become tomei because it's not meishove. He didn't have permission, so it's not his dwelling place. But if that amount of time passes, and nevertheless he didn't tell him to leave, so then things become tomei. If the Metzera stays there that amount of time, and the balabos didn't ask him to leave, then that room, that house becomes the dwelling place of the Metzera. Since the balabos could have told him to leave and didn't, so we consider it as if he got permission. When the kelim shevabai is ben tomei, and they become tomei. So they become tomei only when he had a chance to tell him to leave and he didn't. That's considered permission. In the time for us, we get in them shears man because they have lockets on there. But why is the amount of time that we say we wait, and if he doesn't tell him to leave after such time, then he becomes tomei? What's the cheshbon of this amount of time? Why do we give him this man of hadlokas on there? Because possibly you walked in and really the balabos wanted you to leave right away. Why didn't they tell you right away to leave? Maybe he was busy lighting a candle. That's why he didn't tell the Metzera to leave the house. In the meantime, the fact that he didn't tell him to leave, he hasn't had permission. The fact he didn't say it because he was busy doing something. What was he busy doing? Lighting a candle. The far business shift from that's how we wait in order for the kelim to become tomei. That if the time passed and he was able to light the candle, and nevertheless he didn't send them out, then it becomes as if he gave him permission and it's tomei. But otherwise, we're afraid that maybe he doesn't want to give him permission, and he was just busy lighting a candle, and that's why he didn't give permission. In Teire de Chals betachas adi, you can tell everything is exact. Und der Fundbos von zwischen verschiedene Sachen, mit welcher Balabais kann sein Torah. And since, because there are so many things a person, a Balabos, could be busy. Leib is the Mishnah, Dafke the Tirre von Adlochas an the Mishnah picks Dafke, which kind of busyness was it? That maybe he was busy lighting a candle. Why do we pick the example of candle? Und befragt us, da wird nicht gemeint, Adlochas an Ebel Pale. Especially when we don't actually mean that we really think that he was lighting a candle and that's why he didn't send him out. He says, Mafurish and Pirish Rosh, like the Rosh says very clearly, sometimes a person is busy lighting a candle or doing something else. So we see it's only an example. It doesn't mean he was actually busy lighting a candle. Nochmal, if we go further, this whole idea of lighting a candle is only when it's dark. And this shear that it doesn't become tomei till after the amount of time you could have lit a candle is also during the day. The Meforshim say it because there is no difference. The Chachamim wouldn't make a difference between this and this. So even if it's during the day and he's definitely not lighting a candle, we still say as long as the amount of time to light a candle didn't pass yet, things don't become tomei. So we're giving an example, obviously, even though we don't mean it exactly, we're still using that example. And since everything in the Torah is exact, is the full movement, we understand, as I say, but then was the Mishnah Zogdo. Must be a connection between lighting a candle and what the Mishnah says here, as these them shir, when the Kalim Shurabais need Tomei, till the shir, the Kalim of the house don't become Tomei, there must be some connection lighting a candle. Is Mavayir the roof der Tati is ein ha'oras of the Mishnah. So the Rebbe says, my father explains, and he has a sefer. This is in Teres Levi Yitzchak, because he says in Order 7, the Rebbe's father writes on Mishnah Hanal, on this Mishnah, all the Inyonim explains all Apikabola. So he explains this also Apikabola. He says there, Bayis is Sfiras HaMalchus. In Kabbalah we have all the Sfiras, it says a house that's Sfiras HaMalchus. And brings Rayas as Sfiras HaMalchus in the house. And what makes the Tum of a Metzera? Because the light of Sfiras HaChochma is not there. So if there is the Tumas Metzera, whichever it means, Beruchnius could affect Sfiras HaMalchus, the Bayis, is because there is no Chochma there. But the far as Metzera, Choshev Kameis, we say a Metzera, the Gemara says, is considered like a dead person. There's a pasuk that says in Kehelas, Chochma makes a person, gives life. So Metzera, who's missing Chochma, Apikabole, because the Sfiras HaChochma is missing, that's why he's considered like Meis, because if you don't have Chochma, you don't have Chayas. And the Riber calls man the Balabais is torment at Lokas HaNeir, as long as the Balabais, Apikabole explains, is busy with lighting a candle. So at Lokas HaNeir is Amshachas Seira Chochma. Lighting a candle means to bring down the Eira Chochma. We know light is always connected to Chochma. Chochma means understanding, wisdom, whichever words we'll use for it. But when you understand something, that's light. Light is always Seichel, because when you understand something, things are clear to you. That's light. So lighting the candle means bringing down the light of Chochmah. The lost is not that the Tumas HaMetzera so mishpashes ein bayis. If you have the Eira Chochmah, that doesn't allow the Tumah of Metzera to spread in the house. So he's explaining Apikabola. What's the connection that the Tumah doesn't happen till after, because he was busy lighting the candle, that amount of time, during that time, the Tumah doesn't spread in the house. Now, just like we find, he brings that in Teres Levi Yitzchak. Just like when a Tzeder is Tomei, and you have to make him Toyer, only a Kayan has the right, the authority to do that. As the Pasuk says, Vahuva ala Kayan, V'yotza Kayan, you bring it to the Kayan goes out to him, and the Kayan is able to make him Toyer. So he says the same idea. But Kayan is there was his mamshech the Meira Chochma, Kimavuri look at the Torah, and the Torah says that Kayan has to do with Chochma. So in order to make the Metzera who's missing Chochma, Toyer, which means you have to bring him the Chochma, the Kayan could do it. So this all explains the connection of Pikabola between the lighting of the candle that doesn't allow the tumor to spread in the house. Then the Rebbe goes explains it in a different way, based on this Nekuda, but a different way. If then was the Metzera when we said that the Metzera makes things tome in the house, only if he stays there more than the time that it takes to light a candle. So there's a question. And the reason we said is like this, because maybe the reason the embassy wants to send him out and he doesn't give him permission. Why didn't he tell him to leave? Maybe he was busy lighting a candle. When that amount of time passes, and then he still didn't tell him, that means he gave him permission. But till then, maybe he wants him to leave, but he couldn't give him permission because he was busy lighting the candle. The question is, even if he's busy lighting the candle, is the Tirde nicht as a grace as Bishas Meise, Gufa nicht kennen heißen mit Zeira Ruskip and Bias. It's when you're lighting a candle, you're not so busy that you can't tell the person, the Metzera, to get out of the house. While you're lighting the candle, you could tell him, go out. So what's the pshat that since he didn't tell him and it doesn't prove he's giving you permission because he couldn't tell him. So that time we don't know that he's giving permission because he couldn't tell him. Maybe he was busy lighting a candle. That's why he couldn't tell him. Why couldn't he tell him? And the answer is the shir k'dei adlokas hanei retzvek adlokas hanei de b'shimshi adlokas hanei Shabbos Kodesh. When we say we give the shir, the source of the shir, that things don't become tummy as long as the time that he was able to light a candle. We're talking about lighting a candle of Friday night of Shabbos. The fire can it mafsik sein. It's a hasten the mitzvah. I was going to stoop. So if he's in the middle of lighting a candle for Shabbos, you can't stop. You're in the middle of doing the mitzvah. You made the bracha. You're in the middle of doing the mitzvah. So that's why we're saying maybe you want him out, but you couldn't tell him because you're busy doing the mitzvah of lighting the candles of Shabbos. And since Friday night, if you're lighting a candle, that's when the shir applies. Why? Because then you maybe wanted him to leave, but you couldn't tell him because you were busy lighting the Shabbos candles. Since the shir Friday night is like that, he's saying by the other text for the shir. So all the other nights also, the shir became this shir because we don't want to make differences in one time and another, and the shir became even by day. But it's all based on the thing that you might be busy lighting a candle Friday night. So basically, what it comes out from here is that the source of not allowing a certain time, not allowing the tumah to spread, the tumah of the mitzvah to spread, is based on the fact that you were lighting the Shabbos candles. And just like my father, the Rebbe says, explains, at the time Ashir, the way the Rebbe's father says that, what is the shir of lighting the candle? Because that doesn't allow, he says, the tumah of mitzvah to spread, because in Kabbalah he said it's because it's Eira Chochmeh. And Eira Chochmeh doesn't allow the tumah of mitzvah because the mitzvah is missing Chochmeh, and but if you have Chochmeh, then the mitzvah the tumah doesn't come. So al derech the same thing here also. We're saying that what doesn't allow the tumah to spread? The lighting of Shabbos candles. It comes out that the keach of nida lost in tumas mitzvah, that the power not allowing the tumah of mitzvah to spread is mainly because of lighting the Shabbos candles. Because the main shir of this, that it doesn't become tummy, the shir of lighting a candle starts off with Shabbos. And since the whole idea, the way the Rebbe's father says that lighting the candle doesn't allow the tumah, so now the Rebbe says lighting the candles of Shabbos doesn't allow the tumah of mitzvah. But what's the connection? How does lighting the candles of Shabbos not allow the tumah of mitzvah to spread? The beer in terms of explanations like this. The Mishnah redt nicht wegen tumas of mitzvah. The Mishnah is not talking about the mitzvah itself being tummy, himself being tummy. Nor wegen the tumas of mitzvah was wird nicht pashat in bias. We're talking about the tumah to spread into the house, into the other things of the house, into kelim, etc. The Ribe does bike verbunden mit alokas neder de beshimshi. That's why it's connected mainly with lighting Shabbos candles. Why? He says the neder Shabbos Kodesh stellen sich aus von anderen neder ze mitzvahs in Yonah Shalom Bayis. Because lighting Shabbos candles has something different than lighting candles any other time. Because lighting Shabbos candles, the base of the mitzvah lighting Shabbos candles, it says, that the Gemara says in Shabbos and Rambam, is Shalom Bayis. It brings Shalom Bayis. It's like it says, why is there a mitzvah? One of the reasons why is there a mitzvah to light Shabbos candles? Because if you don't light Shabbos candles before Shabbos, so you'll come home and it'll be dark. And you might trip. You might trip over a piece of wood, over a stone. And what will happen? And then this will make problems. And then will start an argument. Why is this? And what happened? And things are no good. That means if I heaten, as in Bayis, only time made is built to the Tzuim. Lighting Shabbos candles protects that there should be no negative things in the house. So lighting Shabbos candle has to do with the house. It brings good into the house. It brings shalom into the house. Lieber tun of the natives in Bayis, Eidos as the tumas on Tispasha werden in Bayis. So since Neder Shabbos have an effect on the house, that's why it protects the tumah of Mitzvah not to enter into the house. We're not talking about the Mitzvah himself. Mitzvah is tumah, but it doesn't allow, that Inyan doesn't allow the tumah to spread into the house. So we see some connection, superficial connection. We'll see a much deeper connection. Superficial, that this is light into the house, and so it brings good into the house. So it doesn't allow the tumor of a Mitzvah to come into the house. Can I then fragen, could ask a Shaila that this is. The Sholem Bayis al Ner Shabbos wird zugetan durch der Gashmas dicke Lichtigkeit. How do the Shabbos candles bring Sholem into the house? Because physically it blinks light. It's not, so to speak, the mitzvah of it. Poshet, if you have physical light, there'll be Sholem in the house. You won't fall, and there'll be Sholem in the house. Every candle that's lit, even if it's not a mitzvah to light the candle, but light them by, lights up the house, and you won't fall, you won't trip over a piece of wood or stone. Bring Sholem Bayis. Any candle, not after the mitzvah Friday night. If you have candle burning Monday night, it also brings Sholem Bayis. So what's my specialty of lighting candles Friday night? Was dafke di hadloke verderiker. This lighting becomes the main thing. Neither losen as the Weise sein. That Friday night candles is the one that doesn't allow that in the house should be Hepech HaSholem, the opposite of Sholem, the Farechnik is Pashas HaTum, and therefore doesn't allow the Tumah to spread. Why is it negated to the mitzvah? Here we're saying that the mitzvah Friday night candle doesn't allow, but it's, and the reason we said because it's the candles bring Sholem Bayis, but Sholem Bayis comes any candle, any night, any time there's candle and light in the house that brings that shouldn't fall, it brings Sholem Bayis. Why is it negated to the mitzvah of Neir Shabbos? It's not true. Stam Lichtigkeit nicht seindig verbunden mit einer Mitzvah. Stam, if you have light, a candle that brings light, not connected to a mitzvah, is nicht Tomit sicher, dass wir sein Asibitz Sholem. You're not always sure that this will be a reason to bring Sholem. Es kann einmal sein laheplich, sometimes the opposite. In der Lichtigkeit, der sieht man einmal, when it's light, sometimes you could see a mention, you could see a person, or der hat nur a strichene mention, or a certain characteristic, a certain type of quality of a person, but we can for light that you can't stand. As the Lichtigkeit can get a rooster from the Mepech Sholem. The light can bring the opposite of Sholem. Sometimes you don't see bad, you don't see. Sometimes when you start saying, "Oh, this is the guy, it's terrible," or whatever, you could bring. So light doesn't always bring Sholem. Just a true light, which is a light that comes from a mitzvah, like the Pasuk says, "Ner mitzvah teira." Mitzvah is a candle. The teira is light. We know that the Torah was given, the Rambam says, to bring Sholem in the world. So the light of Torah, that brings the real Sholem. That's the real and the guaranteed cause that will bring unity and Sholem, bring Sholem Bayis. So it's not only the mitzvah. So when we say that the Bayis is affected by the candles of Shabbos, that it doesn't bring the Tumah, because Shabbos candles is the one that brings good to the Bayis. Only good. Other candles doesn't necessarily bring good, and this brings only good. Das alles is a hezber of the Sheiches von jeder Shabbos Kodesh mit der Linie von jeder Losen is Pashas von jeder Tumim Bayis. Now, this is an explanation why, with the connection between lighting Shabbos candles with the union of not allowing the spreading of Tumah. And none, so far, I don't know what the Mitzvah, any type of Tumah, we could say the same thing. Since candle of Shabbos brings good to the Bayis, so a Tumah cannot spread in the Bayis when you have Shabbos candles. And then was the shirka they had lokas neir werd gebracht lagabe Tumas Mitzvah. But since we're saying that where do we use the shear of lighting the candles, which means Shabbos candles, is written in connection that the Tumah of a Mitzvah should not spread. Is verstanden, we understand, as far hitun from that Tumah Chamurot HaShayches Michedes from the Shabbos Kodesh, that the protection from this Tumah, specific Tumah of Mitzvah has, which is a very, very chomerdik, a very strict Tumah, this has a special connection to Shabbos Kodesh. Now, what's the connection, Dafke, between Shabbos Kodesh and Tumas Mitzvah Dafke? The Pashtas can man simply can say like this. Eine von den Sibes von Zeras is Lashon Hara. One of the reasons it says for why a person gets Zeras is because he spoke Lashon Hara, like the Gemara says in Erech, and the Rasha brings, etc., etc. Which is an from Pirat Alvois. Lashon Hara is when you make separation between people. Pirat Alvois, you cause a separation in the hearts between people. The fact is Tikkun Dafke durch Shabbos Kodesh, so therefore, how are you masakan? How do you fix the problem of a Mitzvah? The Tumah of Mitzvah, which comes because you made the opposite of Sholem, through Shabbos candles with big Sholem Bayis. So that's like a good reason. So we find a very simple connection between Shabbos candles and getting rid or not allowing the Tumah of a Mitzvah. because that's the complete opposite. Metzora is the opposite of Sholem, and when you have Shalom Bayis through a mitzvah, the light of a mitzvah, so that keeps away the tumah. But there's a deeper pshat in Pnimius. So the explanation, the Pnimis will understand, by first bringing in was the Chazal say, the Gemara says like this, if someone is careful, always lights Shabbos candles, will have children from the Chachamim. Taich Rasha says, where do we see that? Because it says, Kener mitzvah v'teira eir. Mitzvah is a candle, and Teira is light. Al yidei ner mitzvah, the Shabbos v'chanukah, bo eir the Teiras. From that we learn out that through the candle, the mitzvah of candles, which mitzvah of candles, Shabbos candles or Chanukah candles, you come to Teira eir. So you'll have children, Talmidei Chachamim, they'll learn Teira. Them is moving from that we understand. That's Choch Yeder Ner Mitzvah, Choch as Ner Mitzvah meit Yeder Mitzvah. For this we understand something interesting. When the Pasuk says Ner Mitzvah v'Teira Eir, a mitzvah is a candle, it doesn't only go on those mitzvahs that the mitzvah is to light a candle. Every mitzvah, putting on film is called Ner Mitzvah. So every mitzvah is a candle. It's a ruchnisike candle. But since the Gemara connects it specifically to the mitzvahs of lighting physical candles, so from that we understand that even though Ner Mitzvah means every mitzvah is a Ner, weil durch jeder mitzvah sei tut, wird lichtig bei ihm. Any mitzvah you do becomes light. And in the Welt darum, it becomes light by you, becomes light in the world. Every mitzvah brings spiritual light into the world. So every mitzvah is a Ner. So deswegen is in dem Prat für Ana Yisrael, the mitzvah sein und ich in Gashmis verbunden mit Ner. There's something special in those mitzvahs, which this candle aspect of it is even in a physical sense. In them, this concept that the mitzvah is a candle expresses itself more in those mitzvahs. Why? By other mitzvahs, since what part of the mitzvah is a candle? A ruchnesdike candle. It's a ruchnesdike light. What does it convert the gilui of the gashmis from Welt? So revealed in a revealed way, you don't see the effect that the light of the mitzvah affects the gashmis of the world. You don't see it. We believe it. We know that if you do a mitzvah, you bring light into the world, etc., etc. But not the gilui. Hashem came by these mitzvahs, which the mitzvah itself is a physical candle. Since the fact that this mitzvah is a candle is connected also with a light which is from a physical candle, the Leib is the pole from der ruchnesdike Lichtigkeit in der mitzvah, so this concept that there is a spiritual light in this mitzvah affects the gashmis of the world more than the others. Because here, that concept of the mitzvah being light, being a candle, expresses itself in a physical sense. It is a mitzvah which is physical light. So we see the physical light working. And that's like an expression of the spiritual light. So that's connected more, this has an effect on the world more than any other mitzvah, which is also a candle. But that's only ruchnesdike, and you don't see the gashmis, the effect, and here you do. The mitzvah is verstanding. This will explain something else. The Gemara Zogt, Morning Shabbos says, that by the menorah of the Beis Hamikdash, there was a ner maravi, the ner from the Ma'ariv side, from the west side, whichever one it is, not going into the details. It says, what about it? This was testimony to all the people of the world that the Shechina rests amongst Yidden. There was a special miracle on this specific candle of all the candles of the menorah. This was special. There was a nest, a miracle. The miracle was that you would start with it, you would finish it up. It means it lasted longer. So everyone saw a miracle. The other candle had the same amount of oil as the rest, and it lasted longer. It was a miracle. And everyone could see that miracle. So that showed that there's something special by Yidden, that they're able to rest amongst the Yidden. L'chora is nicht verstanden, couldn't understood. In Beis Hamikdash sind doch geschehen a Sachnis. In Beis Hamikdash a lot of miracles. Wie the Mishnah sagt, in Pirkei Avos, the Mishnah says, Asara nissen nasen in the Beis Hamikdash. 10 miracles happened to our parents in the Beis Hamikdash. Einfach was der Nest von Nemar Robi ausgeteilt von allen nissen. So why is the nest of this candle different, special, compared to the other miracles? Was Dafke is given on Eidish Shechina Sher B'Yisrael. Why is Dafke this miracle the testimony that Eidish by Yidden? The idea is because there's Yidden, the Welt saw a miracle. By Yidden, a miracle happened that saw that the Eibishter is there. So why did the Gemara pick Dafke this miracle? There were more miracles. Nochmer, the truth is it goes further. The Mokim HaMneira is in Heichel. The Mneira stood in the Heichel. In other words, we had the other parts of the Beis Hamikdash, which was the Azora, the outside, the courtyard. In the courtyard stood the building. The building was made up of three compartments, three rooms. The first was the Ulam, was like the hallway in the beginning. Then was the Heichel, which was the room in the middle, and then was the Kedesh HaKadoshim further on. So the Menorah was not outside, not in the courtyard. It was in the building, in the Heichel. Now, the Heichel really is the name for all three compartments, the general name for it. So it was in that area, in that building. And dort gufa nit in Ulam. And there it wasn't in the first part, which was the hallway, which was the closest to the outside. Nor in the Mort was Heis Kedesh, in the second area, which is called Kedesh. When nit jeder gekent reingehen, not everybody could enter there. So this was not really seen by everybody. Dagegen von der Asore Nisim, but when we talk about the other 10 miracles, amongst those 10 miracles, seine gewinner Teil ständig und ständig in Asore, there was a part that was in the courtyard, and it was always there. And everyone could always see it. Und zwischen sich was dann passiert in Yerushalayim, amongst them is also things which happened not even in the Beis Hamikdash, not even in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, in the Yerushalayim. When Isaiah room says they give him Mary doing Blakeos, it was more known to everybody. The Gemara actually says that was more known to people. So why do we say that specifically this miracle of this candle was given, but Teicha Kedesh, which stood in that area called Kedesh, which not everyone saw, that was testimony to people of the world. They couldn't even see it really. At that, to them, it was testimony that the Shechina rests among Yidden. The answer is, like we said before, since the spiritual light that was there in this candle expressed itself, came out in a physical light, so that had a stronger power to light up the physical world. When we say that the people in the world saw that Hashem is amongst the Eden, the Shechina rests in the Eden, from here, what does it mean they saw? They saw the light. What made the people of the world see the true light? When the light is even a physical sense of light. So therefore, this had a stronger effect in lighting up the Gashmisdike world than the other ones. All the Nisim were light, but they were spiritual light. So they had an effect on the world. But this had even a stronger effect. The Pharaoh Dafke Dernes influenced Eides the Boil, and that's why specifically this miracle influence, which means was a Eides, a testimony to all the people from the world. They should recognize that the Shechina rests among Eden. So now we understand the Meile, the special Meile in the Shabbos candles. The truth is, on the whole Torah we say, Rambam says that the whole Torah would bring to Chazal, the whole Torah was given to bring Shalom into the world. Through whole Torah, anything in the Torah brings Shalom in the world. But das is diker Shalom beruchnis. Mainly it's beruchnis. It's an effect beruchnis that brings Shalom. Hashenke by Neder Shabbos Kedesh. On the other hand, by the Neder candle of Shabbos, with the Shalom was wird durch that sagt sich Aroi Seichen Shalom bei Skipshute. Here the Shalom that it brings is also in a physical sense. That means there was a physical light. It's a ruchnisdike mitzvah with ruchnisdike light, but it was also a physical light, which actually brought Shalom Bayis physically in the house. It does go for Abavais. That proves, as by their mitzvah is the Shalom Bayis mit Meteke, that by this mitzvah, the fact that Torah brings Shalom in the world, everything in Torah, but this one even stronger. Well, the Hoya, and the Rebbe says, by the way, I want to note, der Maimer kol Torah nit in Lasa Shalom, this Maimer Chazal, this Maimer, this statement, that the whole Torah was given to make Shalom in the world, he brings it in connection to the candles of Shabbos that bring Shalom Bayis. So it comes out here that this concept of bringing Shalom into the world is more by Shabbos candles than any other mitzvah, and because it's a Gashmasdika light, so the light that this brings is more than the light that comes through any other mitzvah. The Asbor in them, and the Rebbe is now going to explain it. And explain the Indian God is connected to Shalom. It's not only the fact that the light is stronger, that connected to the Indian of Shalom also. That the Shalom that comes through the Neder Shabbos Kedesh is a more physical, a Shalom that affects more physically than the other mitzvahs. So the explanation is like this. One of the explanations, and it says that the whole Torah was given to make Shalom in the world is, what does it mean that the Torah was given to make shalom in the world. So if you don't learn Chassidus, if you don't learn the Rebbe Sichas, you learn a Kipshuta, you think it means Poshet. But the Torah was given to make shalom in the world. Since there are so many machlokes in the world, so many people argue, so many arguments, so many disputes, so the Torah was given. If you learn Torah, you have Torah, it makes peace in the world. People shouldn't fight, people shouldn't argue. That's not the pshat. I mean, obviously that's true also. That's not the pshat. The pshat is like this, and this is what it is. And I'll say the words before we even learn inside. There is a constant fight in the world, not between people. There's a constant fight between the world, the way the world seems to be, and the truth, and the Eibishter. The emes Metzias from Welt is Gettlichkeit. The true Metzias of the world is godliness. Der Alter Rebbe is Mavai Barichas Tanya. The Alter Rebbe explains it in Tanya. Ados was the Welt at Akiyum. The fact that the world is existing is as durch dem, was der Eibishter beschaft, sie ständig bechol Rege v'Rege Mayim v'Yesh. Every second, the Eibishter recreates the world from nothing to something every second. So the whole existence of the world is the Eibishter, only because the Eibishter. But and since this godly power that's in the world works in a concealed way, and that's what Eibishter wanted, that should be concealed. So the world seems to look as if it's its own entity. You could think that there is this world has no leader, has nobody is ruling. It's a metzias for itself. No one's running it. And the Rebbe uses Loshen of the Medrash concerning Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu first thought that the world doesn't see a boss, but it can be. It can be Bira Zubira is like a palace, could be without a money, without anybody. But if you look at the world just like that, it seems to be that way. There's nothing proving to you that there's somebody running it, somebody creating it. So there is a dispute, so to speak, let's put it, an argument between the world. The world says, I am a Messias. And the truth is, that's the real Messias. And in dem steht the roof to Tachlis von dem mitzvah Teirah. And we say that the whole world, the Teirah was given to bring shalom in the world. This is what it means. Teirah, mitzvahs are like a candle. Teirah is like light. As durch dem was man lernt Teirah, and in kein mitzvah, learning Teirah and doing the mitzvahs, by leuchten the Metzias of the world, that lights up the Metzias of the world. Lighting means it shows the truth of the world. Light means that you see the truth. In the Dugma von Heitz is all about Labira, like it says by Avram Avinu, that Avram Avinu was wondering, there must be a bit, till Eibishter, the Loshen, the Medrash, Heitz, it's all of Eibishter, showed himself, shined, stuck. It's like a marshal. It says a person saw a building, and everything was going on, and he said, I don't see anybody. Who's running this? And all of a sudden, the owner sticks out his head, so the person sees, oh, now I know who's running this building. Same with the Eibishter revealed himself to Avram Avinu. So the Torah reveals the truth that there is an Eibishter in the world. When they said them emes, and then you see the truth. That's the light. As there is a leader to this world, to this palace. We see even not only there's a leader to the palace. There is nothing but the Eibishter. You see that. That's the exact meaning of the word Torah was given to make peace in the world. Das was Torah is nitno. Sie ist gegeben geworden. The fact that Torah was given, meaning brought down to this world, he says, to bring the peace in the world. This means peace between who and who. To make peace between the world and the Hashem. In other words, the world shouldn't be a contradiction to Hashem. We should see that the world is not contradicting, not fighting, not opposing the Eibishter. Not opposing. The whole purpose of the world is to be a place for the Eibishter to have his dira through us learning Torah and serving the Eibishter. That he didn't do that. That's what it means that the Torah was given to make shalom in the world. It is moving as in dem besteht the Meidl in Yechedes von Shabbos Kedesh. We said before that this whole concept of making shalom in the world is more by the mitzvah of lighting candles. So it's not only because it's a physical light. We're saying in this mitzvah we see the inyan of making shalom. Now we explain making shalom in the world means revealing the truth that the world is nothing but an extension of the Eibishter's creation. That's all it is. But by lighting the Shabbos candles, we say the shalom in the world is stronger, we said before, because it's a physical shalom bias. So the shalom in the world that the mitzvahs accomplish is more by this mitzvah. How? So now we understand the inyan for shalom beilam, the zen as the Amitis Amatzis Welt is Lakud, this idea to bring Shalom in the world, which means to reveal, to realize that the true Metzias of the Welt is the Eibishter, where durch Neire Shabbos Kedish Ubekiton noch mehr durch andere mitzvahs. Happens through lighting Shabbos candles more than through other mitzvahs. It says there, he quotes the Pasuk Neir Mitzvah. Mitzvah is a candle. My Neir Mitzvah, do Neir Shabbos. Neir Mitzvah is Neir Shabbos is the mitzvah, the main mitzvah that brings this idea of Neir Mitzvah. In Neir Shabbos Kedish is the Ringe von Neir Mitzvah, beleuchten die Welt mit mehr Tekev v'gav andere mitzvahs. To shine into the world, to light up the world, to reveal in the world the truth. From Neir Shabbos is more. From here it seems that even more than the other mitzvahs which are connected to the physical candle, which means more than the Chanukah. The Chanukah is also physical. And according to what we said before, the physical candle means that the light is not only in Ruchnis, it comes on into Gashmis. And here we see that by Neir Shabbos even more. From the Zohar we see, Do means this is Neir Shabbos. It doesn't say Do Neiris mitzvah. The Neir mitzvah is Neir Shabbos. So there's something special in Neir Shabbos that it has the power of bringing light into the world, that this should cause people to realize the truth of the world that's sold Eivish. Yeshleimar, so we could say, Adosi the Tam Pnimi was by Yin Shalom Bayis. This could be the deeper reason why, when we talk about Shalom Bayis, was Neir Shabbos to do that the candle of Shabbos accomplishes. Stay the Loshen Shali Koshel Big Tzveve. That Neir Shabbos causes that you shouldn't stumble over a piece of wood, over wood, or over a stone. That's the Loshen. That's the Shalom Bayis. If you don't have the candle, you don't have the candle, then you might trip. You might trip over a piece of wood, or over a stone. And B'meila, it'll cost opposite of Shalom Bayis. And B'meila, this is to avoid this. The Rebbe explains, what's the diuk eitzah? Why do we say it could stumble, it could fall? It's to stumble over a wood, over a stone. What does that mean? So the mitzvah memarames some posig. This hints to the posig. There's a posig that says, when it talks about Avodah Zorah, the posig says in Yirmiyah, in the day the people who worshipped Avodah Zorah, they would say to a piece of wood, "You are my father." That's what Avodah Zorah. Take a piece of wood and you say, "You're my God." So the lotion there is, they would say to a wood, "You are my father." Ula Evid, and to a stone, you gave birth to me. You're my mother. Which means they would use a stone or a piece of wood as Avodah Zorah. As from them Eitz and Eben werd gemacht an Avodah Zorah. The Pasuk says that from Eitz and Eben you can make an Avodah Zorah. And das is the roof of Neir Shabbos Kedish. That's what the candles of Shabbos accomplish. Shalei Koshel Beit Tzveve. You shouldn't stumble over this wood or stone which could make you think of Avodah Zorah. What's Avodah Zorah? Avodah Zorah is when you believe in a power other than the Eibishter. And we said now that Shabbos candles has this power of making you light, the light, to realize, make shalom with Eibishter, to realize that the world is nothing but Eibishter. So you will not stumble over Avodah Zorah. The mitzias von Eitz von Eber mitzadatz von Eides event baleuchten durch Neir Shabbos, when you have a stone or a wood or a stone, before you, if not for the mitzvah of Shabbos, you might stumble over them. You might think that it's a piece of wood that has its own mitzias. Anegenim keach has its own power. Be sorrow from the Eitz Ovi and the Mever not to. You could even call the Eitz, "You're my father," which means basically you're my God. And the stone you could call Atila Latoni, "You're my mother, you gave birth to me." Amitzias from Avodah Zorah, Rachman B'Olam. That's Avodah Zorah. You could, so Eitz Ve'ever, which represents the word Yonim Gashmiim, could bring it to Avodah Zorah. And the Pasuk uses those two as an example. So the Lichtigkeit for Neir Shabbos Kedesh, but to the light of Shabbos candles, Vazei and Neir Mitzvah, Pula for Shalom Be'elam, Virkum Be'efim Golev Gashmiim Seidam, that they have an effect. The Neir Mitzvah, the light, the spiritual light, is there has an effect in the physicality, in the physical part. That makes sure that you will not stumble over the Eitzveh. In other words, you will not have this concept of Avodah Zorah thinking there is a Metzias outside of the Eibishter. Or in the Zetman as the Eitzveh, because through the candles of Shabbos, we see that the Eitzveh, the wood and the stone, the Yeda Metzias, which not only wisdom, but every Metzias, like every Metzias in the world, but ungefit from the Balabira, is controlled by the Balabos, by the Eibishter, and as they gufa darf not genutzt werden auf Yonim from Kedusha, and they gufa you use for Yonim from Kedusha. So we understand the Mile of Neir Shabbos Kedish, which, by the way, from here we see that the Rebbe chose out of all Mitzvahim, he chose 10 things, 10 Mitzvahim, and one of them is the mitzvah of Neir Shabbos Kedish. And some people are tiny. If the Rebbe could show so many few things, so why didn't he choose Daraisa? This is only a mitzvah Darabonon. But here we see that this mitzvah has something that no other mitzvah. This brings the understanding of Gilui Lakus in the world more than any other mitzvah, even though every other mitzvah does that. But this is more. This makes shalom between Davish and the world, and the world recognizes Davish there, and it brings the real shalom in the world. Now we'll go back and see the connection between the not being tummy with the tumah Metzeder. In other words, not allowing the tumah of Metzeder to spread into the house, the connection with that to Neder Shabbos Kedah. Because we said, what's the reason why it doesn't spread is because of all starts over, the source is because of Neder Shabbos. Now we'll see the connection. Tumah Metzeder is from the tumah Achichmuras. The tumah of Metzeder is from the strictest, the worst tumah. But the father by Metzeder, the din, he should be all alone outside of the camp. And Metzeder has to be sent out all three machnas. We have three levels in the camp of Yid Machna Shechina, the Machna, you have Levia, the Machna Yisrael, and a Metzeder has to be sent out chutz tavol. When you dem gufa in that itself, when he's sent out, bodod yeshiv, he has to sit all alone. Even other people who are tomei cannot sit with him. There's even a shayla, maybe even other Mitzaroyim can sit, but certainly other people who are tomei can be with him. The order for the Metzeder is a fila chutz lamachta von ander etmeim, and Metzeder is so far away that he's far even outside the camp of other people who are impure. The state says, it means he's outside of the camp of Kedusha. The Tamadover is why Tak is a Metzeder so far away. Because the sin that brings to Lashon Hara is sehr harb, very strict. The mitzvah said the fear Lashon Rambam, because the Rambam says, you know what it brings to? If you start speaking Lashon Hara, then you speak Daber Belikim. The end will be you'll speak against the Eibishter. They will deny, a Metzeder will come to deny in the Eibishter. Because durch dem wird der Rachman will sagen, in ganzen abgerissen von dem Eibishter, Rachman will sagen, you get completely separated from the Eibishter. And the Ribe, so Metzeder represents the union of, like Avodah Zarah, it represents not believing in the Eibishter. And what did we say before? That Neder Shabbos makes you believe in the Eibishter. Oh, so now we understand the Ribe, because the needs of the laws in these pashas and Azat Tumah. Therefore, not to allow the spreading of such a tumah, which is a tumah that represents the kfira, the denial in the Eibishter, he says, Dafke durch Neder Shabbos Kedesh is Dafke through Shabbos candles. Because Neder Shabbos Kedesh has a stronger effect on the world. These as Dafke Zeba initially Koshel Beitzvem, and Dafke that makes sure to avoid that you shouldn't stumble over a stone, a piece of wood or stone, which is Aninya from Avodah Zarah. Rahman Islam represents Avodah Zarah, Kanal Baruch, like I said before. The Lozens, they needed Tumah from Metzeder, was his verbunden mit Daber mit Kima from Bika. That's why that doesn't allow the Tumah of the Metzeder to spread, which the Tumah of Metzeder represents the denial in the Eibishter. So what's the opposite of that? Is the Neder Shabbos Kedesh more than any other mitzvah. How the Rebbe continues, like that. Like the Tat is Mabayin is ein Hores. The way he says, my father explains in his Hores, as we learned in the beginning of the Sikha, the Rebbe's father says that by the Metzeder, why is he a Metzeder? Because he's missing Eira Chochmeh. And that's why to make a Metzeder Toher, you have to have a Kayan. The Kayan is Mamshich Eira Chochmeh. So what comes out, that he says there, not only Metzeder doesn't allow the spread of Tumah, it brings the Metzeder doesn't allow the Metzeder is missing Chochmeh. And then you have the Kayan has the power of changing that. The Kayan, because he's Mamshech Eira Chochmeh, has the power of changing the Tumah of Metzeder. So there's another point here. Not only is that a union by the Kayan that doesn't allow the spreading of the Tumah of Metzeder, he transforms the Tumah of Metzeder into Tara. Now, since the Rebbe's father connects this union of the Shabbos candles here to the union of not spreading the Tumah of the Metzeder, and he connects it to the union of the Kayan making the Metzeder Toyer. And over there, it's not just not allowing the spread of Tumah. There, it's transforming. Asimen, this hints that even in the case of the Neder Shabbos Kedesh, has the power of transforming the Metzeder. Is das Eich verstandig ben Yoneinu, so from that we understand by us also. The Keach von Neder Shabbos Kedesh is not nur in them, but is eine Ma'ake des Pashas and Tumas Metzeder. The power of the candles of Shabbos is not only that it holds back the spreading of the Tumah of Metzeder. The Nochmer, so the Keach zu machen, die Kelim bleiben teuer. They have the power that the kalim don't become tummy. Now, when the kalim don't become tummy, it means that the tumah didn't spread. But the Rebbe uses this. It's not only it doesn't become tummy in tumas and mitzayre. What happens is it causes a tare. In halacha b'peil, it doesn't cause a tare. It just doesn't allow the tumah to come, as we said before. But since the Rebbe's father connects this to the kalim causing the tare, so here also must be that this has this power even there. But dugma shalem tare al de'akein, which is similar to the tare that comes to the kalim, that the Rebbe's father connects it to this senior. And there it can transform that he was Tomei and you make him Toyer. That al derech when he's hapach. It's not just not allowing the tumah, not allowing the darkness, but it transforms, it changes over from darkness to light. That the Avedas turn to mitzvahs. As from them boded yeshiv, that this Neder Shabbos Kedesh could cause, that from being alone, was shows the lowest, that you're outside of all the machnas. Canal Siftes, like I said before. That boded yeshiv, that same body Lettelman you said. Sometimes it says boded yeshiv, you sit alone, it's lemal yuseh, it's a mile to be alone. Where do we see alone is a mile? There's a pasuk that says, Hein am levoded yishkin. It's a pasuk in Bolok that Yidden are a nation alone, which is a mile of Yidden. They're special, they're different than everybody else. Or it says, Betach boded ein yankiv. The pasuk in Brocha, the Brocha that Moshe Rabbeinu gave, that Yidden will be alone. Yankiv, the ein yankiv will be alone, which means we will not mix with others, and we have the specialty. Because Istachlas HaBrocha is the biggest brocha. So since the senior Neder Shabbos has the power not only of not allowing the tumah to spread, but that is the power of transforming from tumas matzera and making the same things to become good. Same thing when it comes to the darkness of Golas. From Dora Diktas Mashiach, especially double, triple Golas of this generation right before Mashiach, them aid for Neder Shabbos Kedesh, through the light of Shabbos candles that in Balaichten and Cheshach HaGolos, we will light up the darkness of Golos, and will be Movatel, destroy the Golos, noch mehr men kumt legula bin Beis Hamikdash. Not only we get rid of the Golos, but we go to the building of the Beis Hamikdash, to the Gula, Umar Lachem Neder Shaltzian, says the Eibusha says it's a medicine. He brings in the order in Yalkut Shemeni, the Eibusha says, if you light the Shabbos candles, I will show you the Neder Shaltzian, the candles of Tzion, which is the Gula. The Eibush will become the light, the world. The Hashem will be to you the light of the world. These are the Cheshach HaGolos Atzim that Nishapach Ben Leir. The darkness itself will be changed to darkness. And the night will shine like darkness. The Rebbe says from Kol HaNal is verstanden. From all that we understand as an Istik and Zman that the Cheshach from Welt is as a grace and Getir. Nowadays, that the darkness of the world is so big and so thick. It's wichtig. It's very special. Especially important. Every Jewish girl. Even from those circles that till now the girls only started lighting Shabbos candles after their wedding. Until then they were yetze with the mother's benching licht. So they should, as soon as a girl reaches the level of chinuch, which is, that she's old enough that you could explain to her what it means to light Shabbos and Yontif candles. So eventually they should eventually. And then in the Ha'ara, it's Kedai to learn Ha'ara 45. The Rebbe says, is also an important point. And this is bold. It's very seldom that in the Ha'ara should be bold letters. And here the Rebbe made it bold, so to show how important it is. The Rebbe says that we're talking in a house when the mother lights Shabbos candle. The Rebbe wanted the girl should also light. Now he says even more, in those houses that the mother, for whatever reason, does not light Shabbos candles, so for sure the daughter has to light. Certainly after bas mitzvah. Therefore, you have to try to work on this even stronger. And therefore, the Rebbe wants to say, in order for those houses which you must light, the daughter must light if the mother doesn't. That's another reason why the Fruma homes the girls should also light them. If the girls in the Fruma homes, in the area where the other girls are from not Fruma homes, will not light, it's very hard to convince a girl from a Freya home to light Shabbos candle. And there it's more important if she'll see that a girl in a Fruma home doesn't. It's easy to understand. So that's more important another reason why every girl should light. From the Lichtigkeit von Ner Shabbos, and the light of Ner Shabbos, with the brocha was you machen with them, and the brocha that you will make on it, will light up the life of the girl. As if it wissen und gedenken, wie sie sagt in the brocha, at the Rebishter the Melech Elam. This will make her know and remember, as you say in the brocha, that the Rebishter is Melech Elam, as I said before. Lighting Shabbos candles makes you recognize that the Rebishter is the boss. Und es kommt zu in der Sicherheit. And it brings the more to be sure. That when she'll be ready to get married, that by Yazayin Havaya L'chol Elom, that Hashem will be to her the light of the world. Why? Because she'll be going into the world, she'll get married. She as the main part of the home. She'll build her home, establish her home on the foundation of Torah mitzvahs. Then the Rebbe has another interesting point. Another reason for the importance of lighting candles for all Jewish girls. In the month free we mentioned before, as Ner Shabbos Zeicher zu Kinder und Eidem stammt Chacham. It says by lighting Shabbos candles, we call it the Gemara, your Zeicher is because if you're careful with lighting Shabbos candles, you merit to have children and sons-in-law, as Rasha says there in Gemara, to be Talmidei Chachamim. Therefore, like this. Amolik Yorn was given the Seder. Adi Eltern am Beschlossen wegen der Schitte von der Tochter years before, when the parents were the one who decided concerning the shidduch for the daughter, the Melech, the Ike, the Schus and the Mutter is Shabbos. So, Shabbos. So, who's lighting Shabbos candles brought the child, the daughter, to marry a Talmid Chacham? The mother's, because she's the mother who made the shidduch. As if Tochter soll chastam for a Talmid Chacham, she lit Shabbos candle, and that's Schus. She decided the shidduch, that the shidduch she will decide will be a shidduch with Talmid Chacham. Nowadays, then it's at verschiedene Sibis, because of certain different reasons. Is there bepeil? To me, will yeah or the need? Bepeil mamit. The fact is, whether the Rebbe says whether we want that or not, whether it's good or not, he's not going into. But the fact is, the shidduch for the person herself, she herself, the girl herself, the daughter herself, decides. So now it's more important that she herself should light the candles. And their mitzvah was zivet sin, and the candles of mitzvah that she will light, that you give them schus. These will chastam for Talmid Chacham. Will give her the shu, the schus that she will marry Talmid Chacham, because this mitzvah brings you to marry Talmid Chacham, and she's the one that chooses. So her lighting candle will choose it. And nowadays, so I feel in Frumahais is man nicht allemal sicher die Eltern wenn haben die machletes. But the Tochter when sie wird älter werden. Nowadays, when even in the religious homes, not always sure that the parents will have the last word, the decision by the daughter when she will become older who she should marry. We have to work harder as early as possible. As soon as she reaches the age of education, of lighting Shabbos candles, she should start lighting candles every Erev Shabbos and Erev Yontif. But das verstärkt die Versicherung von Torah, that strengthens the promise of the Torah, as when it's in the Gadol sein, that you will raise her to Torah and to Chuppah, Ulamaisim Tevim, to learning to Torah, because as we know, the Rebbe says in Order 49 that in Lubavitch, the Rebbe Rashab said that even by the birth of a daughter, we say you should be zeicha to raise her to Torah and to Chuppah to get married and to Maisim Tevim to good deeds. And if it has to happen for a Talmid Chacham, she will marry a Talmid Chacham. This is a major sikha concerning the lighting Shabbos candle, the importance of it, and the reason why the Rebbe chose this as one of the special mitzvahs, only 10 mitzvahs in mitzvahs. This is one of those because this has such a great kayach, such a great power.
Thank you, Rabbi Schapiro. Sorry I was late.
Okay.
Thank you, Schapiro.
Yeah. Okay. Gute Nacht, everybody.
Gute Nacht.